I unfortunately think this is going to be a long one, reference or any time frame, but I think this is unfortunately going to be a very prolonged government shutdown, and it is going to impact our residents. We have residents here that work for the federal government. They are going to be impacted. There's going to be paychecks that's going to be missed. Thus, there's going to be a reciprocal effect and impact. And it's very scary when the administration is saying, well, we're not so sure that we're going to give them the back pay once the shutdown is averted and everything is back up and running.
Hey, family, welcome to another episode of the Black Man's Roundtable. We have a very special guest for you today on our Community Leader Series. We have a commissioner in Douglas County. His name is Martin Raxton, and he is going to give us a quick state of the district, if you will, how District 3 is doing. He's going to talk about some things that are affecting our county throughout Douglas County. And without further ado, I want to introduce you to District 3 Commissioner, Douglas County, Georgia, Mr. Martin Raxton. Martin, how you doing, brother?
I am great, Rodney. It is good to be here. It's good to be on the show again. And I'm looking forward to conversing with you, sharing some good information for our residents, and looking forward to the questions that you have as we progress Douglas County, and more specifically, District 3.
Yes, sir. You know, I always call you, when we talk, I always call you one of the OGs of the Black Man's Roundtable. You're actually, I love having back on the brothers who are in the original photo that we use throughout our platform on the Roundtable. So it's always good to have one of the OGs back on the Black Man's Roundtable. So with that, Martin, Commissioner Raxton, tell our audience a little bit about your journey in public service through public service and your political career, and how did Martin Raxton become commissioner of Douglas County?
Well, thank you for that question. And a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, and am a only child. And one of the things that I learned very early was about government. My father was a precinct committee person that was very active on our street and in our community. And I got a chance to meet the mayor, the city councilman, our county commissioners. And at that time, and I'm a baby boomer, I don't look like it, but at that time, it was always said, hey, government work is a good job. You can go there, work 30 years, retire, have a good pension and good benefits, and something you should look into as a career. So I went to undergraduate school at Michigan State, and I went into psychology, industrial organizational psychology, and got an undergraduate degree in that arena, and said, well, maybe I don't want to actually work in this field, but let me get back into government and look at public administration. And I started taking coursework, and I came back to Cleveland to go to Cleveland State University to obtain a master's in public administration. And at that time, I worked directly with the city of Cleveland as well as Cuyahoga County, and had the opportunity to work on a campaign for a state representative who was not the same political affiliation as I was. But working as a aide as part of my graduate study, got a chance to really talk to, and actually she was a State Senator Grace L. Drake, who has transitioned to heaven. And we really talked about philosophy and some of the things, the core values that we viewed to be near and dear and important, and found out we weren't that much different. It was just certain areas that she was a little bit more conservative in, where I was more progressive, especially in social and community and civic engagement. So upon graduating from Cleveland State, I took a job with the city of West Palm Beach, Florida, in their planning and development department in their community development program. and got a chance to work with residents about community development, infill housing, and type of things that really are near and dear to our everyday citizens is where you live and ensure that it's affordable. So that gave me an opportunity to understand what are block grants, what is infill housing, how are taxes applied to our community and to our residents, and to work directly with our elected officials as well as our appointed officials that were city managers and other leaders within the city of Douglasville, the city of West Palm Beach. Left West Palm Beach and took a similar role in the city of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, in their housing and community development department, doing some similar activities, and wanted to relocate and came to Atlanta. And the first job, Rodney, that I had here in Atlanta was with the City of Atlanta Housing Authority. And what I did with the City of Atlanta Housing Authority was to write the applications to tear down some of the older public housing units and to build new mixed income development that you see in John Egan, John Hope, Carver Home, East Lake, and some of the other communities. Now we have mixed income development. And it really gave me an opportunity to work closer at the federal level and to understand some of the rules and regs as it relates to housing, public assistance, vouchers, and other things related to supporting, again, the housing in our residents. So after working there for several years, I got into private sector and I worked in IT and started off working as an internal auditor, then transitioned into project management and did a lot of project management, program management, portfolio management, and moved on in the private sector. But I always had that government mentality in the back of my mind. Being a member of one of the Divine Nine, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, I worked as the fraternities at the regional level as their political action and awareness lead. And one of the things that I noticed, and one of the things as all D9 organizations are 501c7, where you cannot endorse or support candidates. You cannot financially support them. And I said, well, I want to do something a little differently. I want to start a PAC, a political action committee, and to actually be able to raise money, raise awareness, and to support those candidates that looked and qualified with the core values of the political action committee that we formed. So very proud that several years ago, we formed a PAC and we support candidates all around the country, not only on the federal level, state level, but also local level. And we have a very stringent vetting requirement and we review candidates. And again, aligning with the core value, and we support and endorse those that fit those values and those modes. So that's one of the hats that I wear that I'm very proud of, supporting candidates. Last year, we had 55 candidates that the Crimson Pact endorsed, and 80% of them won their election. So, in addition to that area, I also am a past chair of the Douglas County Democratic Party. And I took that role and worked in that capacity during the Obama election, the initial election cycle for President Obama's election, and was very proud to be in the forefront of working at the ground level here in Douglas County, getting to become more familiar with some of the local issues, entities in Douglas County, and always thought that if I'm asking others to go out to be on the forefront and to stand tall, that I need to take heed to that as well. So I have a particular emphasis on African American men to say we need to lead and we need to be in the forefront in our communities. So in 2024, the opportunity presented itself where there was an open role for the District 3 County Commission seat here in Douglas County. Former Commissioner Terenia Carthon decided to run for the county chair's role, opening up that position. And there was a special election held back last year in 2024, where after the initial vote was able to get to a runoff and was able to win in the runoff in June of 2024 by very slim margins of 9 votes. and was able to be anointed and have the opportunity with the ability to serve and to be at the table for our residents here in District 3. So we have approximately 35,000 residents in District 3 and about 26,000 that are registered voters, and it is an honor to serve in this capacity. And currently, I sit as the chair of the Benefits Committee as well as the Pensions Committee with the Douglas County government. And I also sit as the vice chair for the Finance Committee as well as the World Games and FIFA Cup that will be coming here to Georgia. And I'm also on that committee as well. So it is an honor to serve the community. Recently, as a personal achievement, I completed my certification as a certified county commissioner through the ACCG and Carl Vinson Institute. And that requires you to complete 9 core courses in order to say that you have completed and had the ability to meet the requirements of becoming a core and certified county commissioner. And I completed those requirements back in April. So again, I take education and learning on the job very seriously, as well as getting out, meeting our constituents, and it is an honor and a privilege to serve at this capacity.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And congratulations, brother, on your certification. Hey, look, I've been around you long enough to know that you talk a lot about people being lifelong learners. And not only are you talking the talk, but you also walking the walk. So I appreciate that. So let's do a quick overview of the state of District 3 right now.
District 3, I am proud to state that we're in good shape. In many ways, this district is the bedrock in housing stock for Douglas County. We have tremendous neighborhoods, and it is an honor to meet the community and to go to the homeowners association meetings where I have the opportunity to touch the residents and to hear the concerns that they have. Some of the concerns that they have that I look to address is litter. I made it one of my priorities to have the blue signs installed to say, if you litter, you will be fined $300. And we're going to take that a step further as we look at our ordinances and from our commercial littering to ensure that we put more teeth in that to bring anyone that's in violation into compliance with stiff penalties, fines, and other initiatives. Another initiative that is very important to me is when we go to communities and they say we need to have more police visibility. Riders are driving through speeding, they're not stopping at stop signs. So we said that's something we can definitely address. So as we hear about that, we ensure, and I work with our deputies and our sheriff's department to ensure that we have more visibility and that we also have more the speed signs out. So anyone passing through will know this is the speed limit. And if you are not going to pay attention to the laws of the road, there will be consequences. Right now, I am very happy to announce that we're doing a lot of paving activities through our LMIC grant that we received through the state of Georgia. So we're paving roads, and I was just out today on Kings Highway where we're paving roads there. We also have Central Church coming very soon, as well as Dorset Shows having some repavement activities before the end of the year. Also, Chapel Hill Road between Anawiki and West Chapel Hill will begin road widening activities where we will have 4 lanes with sidewalks on both sides to extend that boundary. And we're looking to get started with that effort in the next couple of weeks. Another initiative that's near and dear to me is safety. We're looking to have lighting installed coming off of the exit ramp when you're coming around to get off Chapel Hill when you're going 20 west. And we're working and we've gotten the approval. We've gotten the light poles and we're working with our installers to get those lights and lamps installed. So we'll have more lighting going around that very dangerous curves and those lines and those signs can be taken down that are reflector now that unfortunately we see get hit too often and are laying in the ditches. Outside of that, I am constantly in communications with our economic development and those that represent Elevate Douglas about what additional businesses retail that could come into our district. So where there's vacant buildings, we're constantly having communications about potentially what new tenants can come in there. What does that look like based on the needs of the community and based on the responses that we've heard from our residents? I want you to know that I would love to have higher upscale restaurants to come into Douglas County overall. And we're in conversations about what that potentially looks like, not just in District 3, but a county-wide initiative. Additionally, we have a lot of great activities that's occurring in District 3 from an overall infrastructure standpoint. Today, we had the ribbon cutting at Pumpkin Town Natural Reserve on Pumpkin Town Road. And it's a very nice passive park. And we're so excited to finally, after many years, having the ribbon cutting ceremony to open this facility up to our community and our residents to enjoy. One of the next big initiatives that I will be working on is Bill Art Park. There are several things that we're looking to do at Bill Art Park, including some renovations of the concession stands at the football stadium, doing some pavement of some of the roads, and also I would like to have a pickleball courts installed where the old tennis courts were. Those are some of the initiatives that we're working through our Parks and Recreation Department, and I'm also socializing with my fellow county commissioners. And then finally, we sit on the Board of Planning and Zoning, and any initiatives, any variances, any special permits that are being requested, we evaluate that, and I take a great deal of personal privilege of ensuring that from a District 3 perspective, based on the voices of the residents, that we follow suit and that we make decisions that are in good standing for this great district. With that, I say that District 3 is in great hands. We have so much more in store. And again, I am so excited about the future and where we're driving this community.
Absolutely. And it looks like a bright future to me. There's no doubt about it. You painted a very nice picture of not only District 3, but also Douglas County in general. But I have to go back to August of this year, because I know that a lot of our audience, the viewers of the Black Man's Roundtable, were passionate, confused about the property tax, the millage rate. I would love for you to kind of put a fork in uh, what that was about, to explain, if you will, how the millage rate works, how it affects our community, and what we can expect going forward to clear up so much confusion that was going on in August, and so much passion and confusion in August and in September about the millage rate.
Absolutely. So, since I've been on the Board of Commissioners, last year we reduced the millage rate to 12.063. And this year it was proposed that the millage rate would be increased. And that was a proposal submitted by our county administration that made the media. And there was definitely some angst. And there definitely was some information to say this would be the impact if that proposal was approved by the Board of Commissioners. So every year, there's a proposal that the county administration makes and presents to the Board of Commissioners. We are required to have 3 public hearings on any millage rate that we discuss year over year. Now, mind you, just because it was proposed does not mean that it was going to be approved. It was simply a proposal and recommendation, but we have to go through the process. And one of the entities of that is to allow our citizens to voice their concerns. I too am a tax-paying citizen and resident of Douglas County, and it would have impacted me as well if that millage rate would have been increased to what was proposed. So certainly that is something that we all have to consider. One of the things that was also discussed as part of that was what had taken place in the past and how our funds, and again, we're talking about general funds only, what are those funds used to cover and to pay for? And I'm happy to suggest and to support that we constantly look at ways of ensuring that our government is very efficient and that we run efficiently with utilizing the funds that our taxpayers have provided us. So much so, one of the things that was missing and we do not currently have is a committee that looks at the opportunity to ensure that we're doing things in great best practices, cutting edge and leading edge with the resources that we have available. Thus, I propose putting together and having a committee whereby we will look at auditing and ensuring that the financial management is in good lockstep with what good government looks like. That is nothing new from other counties and other jurisdictions and municipalities, but something to give us additional rigor and to give us some opportunities where there may be some things that we could do a little differently and tweak to ensure that the resources that our residents provide us are utilized in the best practical standard. So after the 3 hearings and after the opportunity for our residents to come out, unanimously the board said, no, we are not in agreement to what was proposed for the 3.7 millage rate increase. Each mill produces $7.7 million approximately to the county operations and to the general fund. But we felt passionate to say we're not in a position to increase the millage rate this year. We need to maintain it at the same rate that it was maintained in 2024, and that we will continue to look at ways of ensuring that we will utilize the funds and those resources in the best manner that our residents look for us to maintain. One of the things I also want to share is that our tax commissioner not only collects the taxes for Douglas County, but also taxes for the Douglas County School Board. And if you live in the city of Villa Rica, the city of Douglasville, or the city of Estelle, that taxes are also collected under the umbrella of the Douglas County Tax Commissioner. So only a portion of the overall property taxes comes back to the Douglas County government for us to utilize and to operate the initiatives and activities of our governing body. So I want to ensure that the residents hear that. And again, we held the line. We did not increase our property tax millage rate this year in 2025 or going into 2026. So again, we're very proud to say that we're listening, we're paying attention, and that we want to ensure that our residents aren't feeling that additional burden of having the additional expense of having additional taxes added on to them. In closing, I'd also like to say that we're also looking at other revenue sources
Yes, I
and
was going
other
to ask
ways
that.
that we can bring funds into Douglas County, such as a study that we're doing with impact fees and other fees that we could look at to ensure that we're bringing in additional revenue. We do not believe that all revenue from sales tax and from property taxes should be on the backs of our taxpayers. So we're also looking at ways to publicly and to partner private with our private community to see what additional sources of funds we can bring in to support and to grow the community and to meet the needs of the community as Douglas County continues to grow year over year.
Yes, I was going to ask about other funding, other revenue in order to not have the residents just so burdened all the time by deficits and what we have going on in the county. But hey, like you said, you guys are working on that, and I know you'll be back here, and hopefully you will be able to share some of those other funding methods in order to keep the burden off of the residents of Douglas County as much as possible. Also, Commissioner, there is I know that the county commissioners, I know that you guys also approved a $1.7 million emergency purchase of defibrillators this year in October. And I know that it received a lot of criticism, or some criticism. I'm not going to say a lot. It received some criticism, and some of the commissioners argued the need for the equipment should have been anticipated a little bit sooner than what it was. Is there anything you want to clarify or say, to our followers, to our viewers about that?
So I would say that public safety is a priority here in Douglas County. And anytime you call 911 and you have either the sheriff dispatch or EMS or fire, we want to make sure that the equipment is up to code, is going to be available, and to be able to be in a position to save lives as needed. In our line of questioning in regards to the emergency state, some of the things that, and again, we clarified this with the chief, with Fire Chief Allen, is to say the reason that it was emergency because there was a back order, and we had to make sure that once that order was placed, that in order for those defibrillators to be shipped and to be readily available to us, we had to meet a certain time deadline in order to meet that ability of having that equipment sent to us as quickly as possible while also not incurring any additional costs where the equipment would continue to increase in price. That was not clearly stated initially, but after additional follow-up conversations and discussions, it was clearly understood then why this was considered ordained as an emergency initiative. And again, we have loved to have had this information provided to us sooner, but once it did receive and we had the information on our agenda, we acted quickly in order to meet the needs of the fire department and for our EMS workers to have what was needed and what will be needed for them to support our residents.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. And kind of related to that, I know back in June, um, the county commissioners, you guys voiced a concern about um, federal dollars for public safety in and of itself, and that some public safety may decrease because of that concern for federal dollars. And I think federal dollars make up about 20% of the county's operating budget. Um, where are we? I remember that was brought up in June. Where are we now with that concern of federal dollars as it pertains to public service?
So, federal dollars as well as state dollars is something that we're keeping an eye on and that we're very aware that there could be cuts. There could be smaller grants that are provided or that those grants are no longer provided. So not only from a public safety, but also other areas that we're also been very fortunate to get federal and state grants. We're anticipating what that could potentially look like. With that being said, that's why during this upcoming budget cycle, we have to look at what does that potentially mean and how can we continue to meet the needs of our residents here in Douglas County. Two things that we know that will be occurring is that we have been announced the new state court judge that will be starting, and that's Judge Susan Camp. And there will be another Superior Court judge that will also be named to the bench very shortly here in Douglas County. So not only do you have to support financially the actual judges, but their operations, their staffing, and the other staffing that's associated with that, again, as a result of the growth of Douglas County. So we're going to be putting our heads down. We're going to be going into deliberations over the next several weeks about what does the 2026 budget look like for Douglas County. And with that in mind, we'll be keeping what potential cuts could occur at the federal and state level and ensure that we talk very honestly, very transparently to ensure that we do the best that we can at the local level and any compressions at the local level that we're feeling. And again, it's just not Douglas County, but any of the local municipalities throughout Georgia and the United States are also under some very similar constraints. But we're going to do the best that we can to ensure that we will not have a reduction in subsidy in any of those services, particularly when lives are on the line.
Yes, sir. I know over the past several months, some of the loudest, I guess, complaints that have come out, that come from the residents of Douglas County has been about the dollar stores, the car washes, and all that stuff, the warehouses, depending on what district you live in. But one that is also kind of growing louder and louder is truck traffic. Truck traffic all over Douglas County. And we're talking about trucks. We're talking about the big trucks, the semis, and ones with 3 or 4 axles on them. And I know that there is make sure I get it right here. There's a freight cluster study that was commissioned to evaluate the impact of the truck traffic. That study's goal is to secure future funding for the improvements. And I got here where Douglas County is developing the Safe Street and Road for All. And this plan there'll be a public meeting to gather the residents' input on this plan. But Commissioner, if you could just talk about the plan, what we have coming ahead in the future to minimize this crazy truck traffic that's all over Douglas County.
Well, truck trafficking in Douglas County is continuing to grow. I see it even in my subdivision here, and I look on some of the roads here, and they're coming through there, and some of the things, and some of the complaints I hear from the residents right here in my subdivision is that we're seeing more and more of them cut through and coming into the subdivision. So it's not just on Chapel Hill Road or Highway 5 or Lee Road, but throughout Douglas County. One of the opportunities that we have really paid attention to is in Douglas County, we really don't have a lot of thoroughfare that goes east and west. You're almost limited to 166 or 78. And there's not many more thoroughfares where traffic can come through. And if you have accidents on 20, then we all know what that can happen and what that impact can be and felt on our streets. So some of the things that we're looking into, and you alluded to it, is a study to see what can we do to address this. What are some new initiatives and some things that we could put in place and work with the community to help ensure that not only when trucks come through, that they're obeying the laws and that safety is a priority for our community and our residents. I'm hearing even now at 4 p.m., there's traffic backed up on Chapel Hill Road when some of our schools let out, and a lot of that is truck traffic. So we have to understand what is the timing and why are trucks coming through at such a high volume during the middle of the day. Is that something that we can have some input in for the trafficking that we're seeing on our roads? Also, I would like to put a pitch that we're hopefully looking to put another referendum for our residents to consider in 2026, whereby we can do some really good capital improvement initiatives here in Douglas County to widen the streets and widen many of the roads to make sure that we have sidewalks, but it's going to take the support and the backing of our community to say that splosh funds can be utilized for these capital improvements and the needs, because our county continues to grow. We have more population that's coming into the community. We have seen the studies and the demographics of what that looks like, and we just have to get a hold and hopefully get the support of the community. So not only that we have the roads, but we have the sewer, that we have the infrastructure in place that will support this new growth, in addition to the truck opportunities that we're currently experiencing here in Douglas County.
Thank you for that, sir. I know I'm definitely looking forward to something being done. I mean, with growth, things happen like traffic and all of that. So, I definitely understand that. But I also know that in certain areas and certain um, areas that may not have the demographics that Douglas County has, we know that as our demographics has changed quite a bit over the last 20 years, I just believe that this truck traffic situation would not be the issue that is growing to be here in Douglas County. And I definitely look forward to, our great commissioners doing what you guys can do to slow that down, uh, put a halt to it, or give other routes and do your work. But like you said, you definitely need the backing, of the community, and it's going to more than likely take some dollars. So, but it is what it is, and if we want to look like the community that we are here in Douglas County, a great community, then we also have to sometimes be willing to, cough up a few dollars in order to do that. So, looking forward to that, Commissioner. And next, kind of specific to District 3, um, District 3, if my numbers are correct, District 3 has one of the higher disposable incomes in the metro Atlanta area, especially when we're talking about the West Metro. But it doesn't really reflect that, in my opinion, and in the opinion of a lot of viewers and followers of the Black Man's Roundtable. It does not reflect the disposable income that it has, that it boasts. As far as when you look around and you look at, like you talked about a little bit earlier, in the state of this District 3, hotels and restaurants and those kind of things. And I know that you are doing your due diligence to bring those things. And in fact, it was one of the things that you ran on, that you talked about in your campaign. And but one thing that made me kind of think, I had a brother on who is a $1 million developer here in Metro Atlanta. He's developing properties around the world. I think he has companies in 5 different countries now. But I had him here on the Black Man's Roundtable, and one of the things that he talked about is how, even when he talk about bringing a development into certain cities, certain places, or developers talk about coming into other cities and places that kind of have the demographics of a Douglas County, if you will. The first thing they want to talk about is, well, we'll put a development here, but it's stuff like Church's Chicken and Popeyes and that kind of thing, right? And so one of the things that he had me to think about as we were talking, as he was on the platform, was the fact that, what, if some of these high-end hotels, high-end restaurants feel that, hey, Douglas County is not our market, the demographics don't match what we wanting to do. My question is, or my thought is, why don't we look at developers, minority developers, who may, you may not get that restaurant that you want, that may be in other similar cities or similar neighborhoods that have the kind of disposable income that a District 3 has. But however, developers who actually care and who can bring quality in, versus looking for and care about the people, and a lot of times these are going to be minority developers. But hey, Douglas County is a majority minority county now. I don't really like that terminology, but hey, it is what it is. And maybe we should think about those kind of developers, if these other developers are giving Commissioner Raxton a hard time about, well, we don't think that Douglas County suits our business model very well. But yes, if you could talk about that a little bit, and where you are and what you think about maybe even looking at some of the other kind of different developers to bring those things to Douglas County, and specifically, District 3, which, like I said, has a higher disposable income than a lot of areas.
Absolutely. So let me be clear. I want to work with any developers that want to bring that high end, kingdom quality type of mentality into Douglas County. I want to, and we have locations, we have available land where, Rodney, I envision Avalon or Atlantic
Yep.
Station here in District 3. But it's going to take that type of vision that type of leadership, that type of partnership, well, we have developers that will say, we are willing to invest, we are willing to come, and we are willing to put our resources here in Douglas County because we have an outstanding story that we can share with developers. One of the things that I'm looking at is to have an opportunity to talk with the retail businesses and to talk with these conglomerate organizations about why Douglas County is appealing and should be at the top of your radar and why you should seriously consider it. So good news is that we do have movement afloat, and we do have organizations, businesses, and companies that are very good name brands that are looking, coming, doing site visits here in Douglas County. So that movement is afloat, and I am willing and would love to talk to developers and partners that based on the demographics, based on not just in 2025, but in the next 20, 30, 40 years from now, what does this community look like? And aligning with our long-term vision, I invite those type of developers to come here to Douglas County. Let's sit down and let's have some discussions. I tell you, if I could get a hold of Arbor Place Mall, if that was something that I could work with that development team and work with the city of Douglasville, I have a vision of what we could really turn Arbor Place Mall into and what the community has asked for Arbor Place Mall to really look like. But again, we have other land and other properties available here, even in District 3, that I please ask for those developers to reach out to us and let's have conversations. And again, as I talked and spoke earlier, I'm having conversations with our economic development leaders to say, these are the businesses that our residents are looking for. What do we need to do to get them to the table, to have site visits, and to get some ground broken so we can see that movement afloat and we can get that new development here, not only in District 3, but also in Douglas County. So I am all for it. I welcome that. I embrace that. And I believe in public-private partnerships. And collectively, we can really do some great things.
Thank you for that, Commissioner. And look, if I want for the developers, the $1 million developers that we have had right here on this platform, you heard it from Commissioner Raxton. Contact him, sit down with him, talk to him about the things that you guys talked about right here on this platform. Come and talk to him. He's open. So thank you for that. Thank you for that, Martin. I appreciate it. And lastly, I want for you to, we are currently in a government shutdown. One of the things that I talk about a lot on this platform is that all politics is local. In fact, I believe on I want to say on the last podcast that we did, I talked about what it means when we say that all politics is local. And one of the things I talked about is that, which is another thing I talk about on this platform a lot, which is that people do not seem to care nowadays until something affects them directly, until it hits them in their pocket or affect their household or them personally in some kind of way. They just don't seem to care. One of the things I talked about is Medicaid, and I really applaud the Democrats for holding, the Republicans in Congress feet to the fire, and won't let them destroy and take away Medicaid from millions and millions of citizens in America. And that is the primary reason, the main reason that we are in this government shutdown, because they want to annihilate Medicaid. They want to privatize Social Security and all this stuff. And I applaud the Democrats for not allowing that to happen. I hope they can stand strong and stay strong and show their constituency that they have a backbone, because a lot of Democrats question the backbone of our elected Democrats, and this will be an opportunity to show them. So where I'm going with that is I talked about how we not caring about things until it actually hits our home front is not a good thing. And what I use, Commissioner, I use the fact that if you run around talking about you don't care what happens to Medicaid because you are not on Medicaid and it's not going to affect you and your health care because you got your great private insurance through your employer. So you better hope you keep your job. But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. I do not like the fact that in this country that most people's health care is tied to their employment. But again, that's a whole nother podcast. But that being said, here's the way I put it, Martin. I said, so many rural hospitals and so many uh inner city hospitals are funded by Medicaid recipients and Medicare. And when you go into these hospitals, emergency rooms, it is Medicaid and Medicare that is paying for so many of those people who are receiving, medical help. And if you if you cut Medicaid and you start, trying to privatize and do all kind of silly stuff with Medicare, then what happens are those urban and those rural hospitals are the first ones to close because they depend so heavily on Medicaid and Medicare in order to keep their doors open. So what I said, Commissioner, is that you can have all the best private insurance in the world, but if you don't have a hospital to go to, then what good is it doing you? What good is it doing you if you don't have a hospital to go to? So therefore, Medicaid does affect you because it is quite a journey. If you're having a CV event, a cardiovascular event, or a stroke or whatever, and you could have been to the hospital in 5, 10, 15 minutes, but now it's going to take you 45 minutes, an hour to get to an hospital. I think we all know. I think everybody that follow this podcast knows that CV events are about timing. And so it actually does affect you, even though you're like, well, I'm not on Medicaid. I'll never get those things. Okay. And I did say that I have the same, because I'm retired military, I have the same medical insurance that the congressmen and senators have. Okay. But I am worried about Medicaid. And if I can't go to the hospital because my private insurance, because the hospital is closed, then I could even go to the VA, which is what I talked about and said, well, I guess that's the socialist, that's the socialist medicine that they talk about, or it is the single payer system that Barack Obama wanted to, get, that's what the VA operates, kind of a single payer system. So, but I could go there. But look, so I'm probably one of the last people that would be affected drastically by hospital closures. But however, I'm very concerned, and I do applaud the Democrats for what they have done as far as, allowing this government to shut down than to have millions of Americans to not have health care. So I would like for you to talk to the followers of the Roundtable about how our county specifically is being and could be in the future affected by this government shutdown.
Well, hey, thank you for the additional context. And again, I agree that Medicaid should be expanded. And that's something that we've had the opportunity, particularly at the state level, where the state controls that, to make that happen, to ensure that millions of Americans, millions of residents here in Georgia get the health care coverage that is needed. And I do believe there is a direct correlation with hospitals being shuttered because of the lack of the expansion of Medicaid and Medicare. And I don't think that's anything that is a surprise to anyone. I think we see it, we got it, and for whatever reason, it's been continued to and allowed, unfortunately, to manifest in that manner here in the state of Georgia. One of the things that I talked about was ensuring, and you mentioned veterans, was to ensure that we have more veterans care here in Douglas County. And that's another area that is very important to me. I know that veterans have to travel out of county to get some of the needed services, either in Carroll County or going to the CAP and getting the services and support needed. And I would like for us, and I have others that are like-minded on the Board of Commissioners that thinks the same. And we're definitely looking at possibilities of getting some additional support to our veterans here in Douglas County, which again, when we talk about all politics is local, that directly impacts our local residents and communities. And unfortunately, we're seeing an increase in homelessness here in Douglas County. And a lot of those, unfortunately, are veterans that are unhoused in this community. So we definitely want to pay attention and to do something to address that as much as possible. With funding cuts, there again, as you mentioned, there's the possibility that if additional cuts occur, grants are no longer funded or reduced, then that gives a more impact onto what we have to govern with and what we have to work with in the supporting the needs of our community and our residents. One of the things that's very near and dear to me is for those residents that are suffering with mental illness or substance abuse. And once they get into the criminal justice system, what happens? In Douglas County, we have a very good support system for our community that once they are incarcerated, once it's determined that these services are needed, that they get those services, they get the support, they get the counseling, they get the medication. But then once they are relieved and back out in the community, where's that safety net? Where do they go to get those continued services and support and that continuity to ensure that they do not have to or do not fall back into what brought them into the arena of criminal justice? So that's another area of public health that we're looking at, and we're having conversations with our healthcare providers here in Douglas County. Another area that I'll also share with you is that we're getting insights and we're getting information. We're getting citizens complaining to say at our local hospital, there's an extended period of wait in the emergency room or to be seen by a physician, and what can be done about that. So we're having conversations with the leaders of the local hospital to say this need exists. How can you expand your services? How can you expand your campus? And if the footprint isn't there at your present location, where else in the county can we go to make sure that primary care is provided to our residents here in Douglas County, and they do not have to travel outside of Douglas County and to go to Paulding County or go to Kennesaw, going to Emory, going to some the Piedmont of some of the other hospitals, where, as you indicated, you have to drive and travel 40, 45 minutes, etc., to get the services and life-saving support that they need immediately. So I say that to share that your commission and board of commissioners are having those discussions. We're looking at what can we do and to try to get in front and to try to stem the tide that we see coming our way to ensure that we're addressing the needs of our residents of our community and to try to be as proactive as possible. And one of the things that studies have suggested is that the more proactive you are, then you're going to pay less versus in the back end where things have spiraled and now you're having to pay more because you have a lot of other variables, entities that now needs to be supported. So I say that I am very concerned about the government shutdown. I unfortunately think this is going to be a long one, and I don't have any reference or any time frame, but I think this is unfortunately going to be a very prolonged government shutdown, and it is going to impact our residents. We have residents here that work for the federal government.
Yep.
They are going to be impacted. There's going to be paychecks that's going to be missed. Thus, there's going to be a cyclical effect and impact. And it's very scary when the administration is saying, well, we're not so sure that we're going to give them the back pay once the shutdown is averted and everything is back up and running. So I encourage our residents to reach out to our United States representatives, our United States senators, have the conversations with them. Let them know first that you're supporting their stance and that you're supporting their right to say, no, we're not going to allow the cuts. We're not going to see a reduction in the healthcare needs of our community, and we're going to stand tall with our residents. So please reach out to our elected officials on the federal level to let them know that we're there with the fight, but then also go down when the state legislature and the General Assembly opens the second week in January. Go to the committee meetings, be in the gallows, have conversations with your state elected senators and representatives and governor, and let them know that we're not looking to stand and to go back with medical coverage. We are looking for Medicaid to be expanded. We're looking for our hospitals to come back online, to expand and not retract, and that we're going to hold you accountable come time when the election cycle comes back around for our local elected officials, state elected officials, and federal officials are going to be asked for their votes to be placed back into office. So again, Black Men's Roundtable, this is a great forum for these discussions to be held. I am always available and accessible to discuss them and things that we can take in and we can do differently at the county level. And I also pick up the phone and have those conversations with my state representatives, my state senators, as well as my U.S. representatives and those that are in the Senate. So again, we have the opportunity and they need to hear our voice, but they need to hear our voice, and we have the opportunity for that to occur.
Thank you for that. And I think one of the ways, or a couple of ways that that we in the county are going to feel the direct impact of this government shutdown is, like you talked about, Commissioner, those hospitals, things are going to start to happen. And of course, our schools as well. Things can start to happen there. And eventually, it will affect almost every aspect of our lives. So we just have to be diligent. Like you said, we have to stay proactive. We have to stay active. We have to stay woke. And here on the Black Man's Roundtable, we don't care who don't like that phrase. We say it a lot. Yeah, I'd rather be woke than asleep. So, so absolutely. And also, we have an election that's coming up in November, where early voting has already started on Tuesday, October the 14th, for our PSC and Public Service Commission. And you, the citizens right here, have a direct influence through your vote of how your utility bill, your electric bill is going to be affected by this vote. And so you can't go around complaining about high utility bills from Georgia Power and all this stuff, and you don't put your input on these elected officials on the PSC. So early voting has started. Make sure you get out to vote for those seats. So Martin Raxton, brother, I appreciate having you on, but I cannot let you get out of here without talking about how people can reach you, anything that your office, you have so much going on, and you got me out there picking up paper. You got me out there. You got me out there too, every other month picking up paper, keeping Douglasville beautiful. I think is a great initiative that you did. impacting the Adopt a Spot program for the county. And it is definitely, I can definitely see the difference in the way the county is beginning to look with that initiative. So yes, I'll be right back out there next month picking up some more trash. But anyway, I want this opportunity for you to talk about how people can reach you and things that you may have going on in District 3 and through your office, sir.
Absolutely. So, again, it's great to be in this forum. It's great to come out and just touch the community in this platform. So, it's an honor to be here, Rodney, with you. Um, I greatly appreciate it, and I've seen how this has just expanded and the vision you had to make this a very unique platform is coming to fruition. So, again, hats off. I applaud you, and I am here to support you in that manner.
Thank you, sir.
Certainly, in order to get in contact with me, I have the same cell phone number I've had over 30 years.
Yep.
404 276 2121. Again, 404 276 2121. And if you'd like to email me, it's MRAXTON at DouglasCountyGA.gov. Again, MRAXTON at DouglasCountyGA.gov. This week, we have some great initiatives from a county perspective where we're reopening Boundary Waters Aquatic Center. We're having the soft launch on Friday. We've put a lot of resources in there to upgrade and enhance the facility. So we're asking the residents to please come out. And for those that have missed the opportunity to swim over the summer, now we're going to be opening it back up. And I'm hoping that you'll be very pleased at the results of the Aquatic Center. Again, we talked about some of the road widening activities that will be occurring in District 3, as well as some of the pavement that will be repaved. So I'm very excited about that. Some of these roads have been under or need a repair for many years, and I'm excited to get those underway. We have a roundabout that we'll be looking to put in place in next quarter at the edge of 166 and Chapel Hill Road. So that, again, is going to bring increased safety. Also, at the end of Dorset Shows and Highway 5, a roundabout there. So we're looking to address any of the safety concerns and traffic concerns of our residents that we have heard. So I am greatly looking forward to some of the initiatives. As this being Breast Cancer Month, we will be acknowledging and having a program at the county courthouse this Thursday to recognize breast cancer and to continue to support the needs of our survivors, the families, and those that support this particular effort, along with other cancers and other forms of community and social services that our community is looking for. So I am greatly honored to sit and to be a part of this great board of commissioners. I'm looking forward to continue to be in the community. I go to churches every Sunday. I go to visit a new church every Sunday. So please invite me to come and fellowship with your church. I'm not looking to speak on the mic. I'm just looking just to be there so that the residents and community can see me there in person. Also, please invite me to any homeowners association meetings, especially here in District 3. I've been to several of them. And again, it gives me an opportunity to hear some of the opportunities that our organizations, our residents, and community feel. And I take heed to that and really try to ensure that we address that. So it's an honor and a privilege to be in an elected office. I greatly appreciate the support. I ask for your continued prayers. And again, reach out to me and let me know what we could do to serve and to be of assistance.
Thank you for that, Commissioner, and thank you for your availability. I will say, I will vouch and say that you are definitely one of the most available elected officials that I've run across in a long time. So for those of you out there, when he say invite me and he wants you to invite him to your events, your meetings, I can vouch and say Martin Raxton actually mean that, and he will show up. So anyway, Martin, appreciate your availability. Thank you, sir. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being one of the OGs of the Black Man's Roundtable. It's been 3 years. I'm glad you watching us grow. I'm glad you helping us grow. And we look forward to having you back soon to, give us an update, on District 3, on the county. And with all of this shutdown stuff happening, with all of the things that are happening in Washington, D.C., I tell people all the time that what affects you, that all politics is local, and what your county commissioners are doing, what your city council people are doing, it is going, if they make a decision on Monday, it is probably going to affect you on Friday. Whereas what those clowns do in DC, who knows, it'll get to you eventually, but they can also soften the blow of a lot of things that come out of Washington, D.C. And we definitely appreciate our state leaders under the Gold Dome as well. So thank you, Commissioner Raxton, and we look forward to having you back on very soon, sir. All right. And with...
Well, thank you very much. I look forward to coming back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And with that, you can catch the Black Man's Roundtable podcast the third Thursday of the month. Also catch the Black Man's Roundtable Roundup with Rodney and Rodney the second Thursday of the month, and the Black Man's Roundtable Local Lookout with Rodney and Bobby the first Thursday of the month. All episodes drop at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Until next time, we'll see you in them suites and them streets. Peace. Hey, family. If you like what you saw, visit our website at blackmansroundtable.com for more information or to check out more content. Until next time, we'll see you in them suites and them streets. Peace.